No change in this side, by the way, which is fantastic news for them. Unchanged, Pickers.
Yeah, and look, their record not great against Geelong. Obviously, they've lost 7 of their last 8 games, and a poor record at the G, lost their last 6. They did win earlier in the year, which we saw the highlights on the play on there. On exposed form, the Cats win this and win it good. I would say they'd win it pretty easily, really. But I was really impressed by what I saw from the Dockers last week. I love their run and carry from defence. They were led by Luke McFarlane down there, who did a great job on Big Bud. They used the ball really well by foot, and they made a real effort where possible to get the ball into the centre corridor. So I was very impressed with what I saw with the Dockers last week at home. Sandelands, although he's injured, he's got a bit of a sore knee, but he was enormous last week, his presence in that group. Hill and Morabito we'll have a look at a little bit later on. They were superb, absolutely superb. Mundy and McPhee, Adam McPhee, BT, you were writing him off a number of weeks ago, did an unbelievable job last week on Luke Hodge. Mundy's got himself to a real A-grader, and the second half of Pavlich was very good last week as well. So, whilst they're going to go in overwhelming underdogs, the reality of it is they should be pretty pleased with how they're feeling about themselves.
What are we doing with Sandelands? You mentioned him just there before. We're going to play him forward, given his injury. Can he run on the ruck? What are we doing?
Well, I wouldn't mind talking to the boys about this. I've done a posterior cruciate. You can actually play, but you just don't have the power. And that's what he's done, obviously. But in the ruck, at 7 foot, 211 centimetres. At their very best, they're going to have to jump up high to get over him. You can only stand there. Corey McKernan played with one.
I was going to say, one of your teammates did, yeah, and he did okay. Actually,
well, this is last week. He went forward, didn't he, and played... Yep.
Oh, look, this is where I think they can expose him. I mean, if you have a look at this bit of vision here, in particular this next one we're going to show, 4 up against him. So he sort of really creates some other players, and he should create some loose players. Look at this. 2 going against him, 5 sets himself out the back. So when he went forward, he was dangerous, and he can still be very dangerous. I think he'll play some in the ruck, but he can be a real presence in the forward line as that big ruckman down there sort of creating space because, like it or not, he attracts a crowd when he goes up in the ruck.
Not obvious from that, not jumping at all, is he?
No. Just his first quarter, though, was outstanding, wasn't it? He was brilliant. He was best on ground by a mile. But then after that, obviously, he lost mobility. But definitely a pre-game tactic by the Hawks to jump on him. But it'll be interesting to see whether they try that same thing this week because, as you said, he's lost his power and not jumping as much.
We're all convinced he's going to play.
Yep. 100%.
They have brought Bradley over, I think, as a possible late replacement, but I don't think that's likely, is it? I mean, as you say, at least he's going to go forward and try and play some sort of meaningful role up there.
Well, I'm not sure he's going to get much value as marking. He's not going to mark a lot of balls forward. If they bang it long to him, the Cats will just sag off and they'll go and help each other. But I do think that in that ruck work, which we saw there, could be pretty handy.
What about Bradon's, boys? He hasn't had the greatest of years either. If you have a look at his impact on the game through some numbers here we dug up. Oh, look at him giving us a bit of a blink there. Good on you, Bradon. Come back to that photo.
A little bit of a lazy eye.
A bit of a lazy eye, Brad. Wow, look at that. 13 games for Brad. Disposals. Have a look at this down the bottom. Just 5 goals, 6 from the 13 games. 3 assists. Only 8 marks inside 50, Parker.
And Brian, I mean, we know his capacity as a ruckman and he's an outstanding player there, but what he's had up his sleeve is that he's gone forward and marked consistently, horrified opposition and kicked goals. And so either he's not doing as much forward work because he's forced because they're not having, the bait's not there on the weekend, so he's going to have to do most of the work, which won't allow him to be forward to actually take the marks and score.
He's one of those players, though, isn't he, that a bit like Darren Jolly, he can get forward and look dangerous, but maybe he just hasn't been hitting it up on the scoreboard this year because he's been very good at it in the past.
And his body's obviously, not 100%, but let's not forget this bloke times he's run pretty damn well. I reckon they'd be still worried about him on the weekend.
He's Clark Keating-like.
He is.
Be worried with that lazy eye there. We'll see more of that shortly when we do the other teams. Hill and Morabito, boys, got some pace about them. Look really, really good of recent time, don't they?
Well, this is the issue, I think, for the Cats, is their speed and the weather conditions are going to play a big thing in it. But interesting to see these two blokes when they can go. They're pretty hard to stop.
Well, look, I'm a Morabito, the Harvey Bulls boy from down the southwest. I mean, he's missed 1 game, I think, that's all. He's a first-year player that usually gets tired. This kid has had... He's a strong runner. That's not slow over the ground, is it? And he's got a good head for it. He hasn't finished them off around the front as much as he should have. But this kid is just, as a, 20-game player, no, 17 or 18-game player, has become one of the most consistent players in the competition.
He has, and you saw the way he accelerated around that stoppage there. He's a very good player. And look, he's one that, for his first year, to be able to do what he's done, I mean, he didn't get a nomination, I think, till round 22.
He did last round.
Who gets Hill? What do you do about Hill? How do you stop the run? What sort of player do you play on him? How do you do it? How do you achieve it? How do you take him out of the game? Because I get the feeling he's a player you can take out of the game because he's so young and perhaps immature at this stage.
Well, do you want me to go to my matchups?
Yeah, OK.
Let's have a little look at the matchups. We'll see who I've got sort of playing on him, but we'll start off with the big fellas. I'm going to start off
there
with...
He is, big lazy eye. Oh, boy, Brad.
Big Brad, who's just feeling pretty funny about something. Crowley will go to Gary Ablett. He has played him the last few times. McPhee will get a job on someone. If I was Fremantle, I'd go to Selwood. Ling will go to Mundy. He's become a critical player in that midfield for the Fremantle side. Joel Corey, I think, to answer your questions, will have the engine to go with Hill, and they'll try to deny him a bit of space. And Broughton through the midfield onto James Kelly, who's had a terrific year as well. Dare I say it, an All-Australian type year.
Very nicely done indeed. Midfield matchups. Chris Mayne, boys, what do you make of him so far this year? Hasn't played all the games. What was the injury he had earlier in the year?
He had a quad. Was it quad? Yeah, it was something. It was a leg injury. It was a quad, I'm pretty sure. But he's a super talent, isn't he? And look, this one, Joe the Goose over the back, but can he finish? He's a pretty smart player.
Do you know what he does, Parker? And he does it beautifully. He's a presenting forward. But he doesn't just run through. If he doesn't get used at centre 40, he wheels back and gets goal side, and he's a very smart forward.
Oh, he's a very smart player, both sides of his body, and he does push up in the midfield too. He gets balls up high as well as deep.
You mentioned the MCG before.
Yep.
Is it a real big factor, the fact that they haven't seen it this year? 6 of their players haven't even been onto the ground, never mind played on it, haven't even been on it.
Brian, I'm might be out of step with the other blokes here, but I think the fact that they haven't played here at all, I know they get a massive crowd, they fill that ground over there, so the crowd factor's probably not a real... But this is the mecca of football. To get on it once in the season when you play your first final seems to me unfair.
The Purple Haze supporters would have little effect at the G, I would have thought.
Yeah, they wouldn't think they were terrific last week. Geez, they've got to make some noise, the Purple Haze. But look, I think it wouldn't be a bad spot to start your first game.
You don't think
I don't think so. They're going to get up for the game. I mean, if you can't get up for a final with a young group, it wouldn't matter where they played the game. I think it'll be a great learning experience from tomorrow night.
A great fact. I think it's a big factor, the fact they haven't even seen the game ground until yesterday. But look, I'm like Pickers. I think it's a final. It means so much, and they'll be up for it.
Yeah, they'll know about all of the idiosyncrasies associated with the MCG, given the fact they haven't been there, won't they?
I thought you were going to say all the idiots.
Oh, well, mate.
You with me, Brian.
Every ground has those...
Well, I did train today.
Yeah, but one training one, in fairness, Pickers. I think it's a disadvantage.
Yeah,
I'm with you,
it's a
David.
disadvantage. But
these guys here need to have a good look at themselves. Freo forwards, cats backs, Parquet, what do you got for us?
This is an interesting set. I may not have got this right, but I think Enright will have to get Mayne. The bloke we just talked about has the speed to go with him. I'm sure Taylor is the right man for Pavlich in the form is in when he pushes up or drops back. Milburn is the one, I think, for Walters. Walters a bit quick, and Milburn usually zones off them. He's pretty smart at doing that. Hunt for the ball. Hunt had a pretty ordinary start last week, and this kid's going to be a good player, needs to play him close. We talked about Lonergan doing the job on Sandelands. He's the tallest option they have down there. And I think Crichton, Scarlett will be a good match-up so that he can get off and run and probably not be cut about by a young bloke.
Scarlett and Crichton match up there. See those photos.
Can we have another look at those? Is there a chance we get that photo up again? Because it looks like a father-son combination happening up there, Brian.
There's something going on there. No, we can't get them up, so that's the way you think they line up. What about the Cats forwards at the other end of the ground, Colby, for you?
Yep, I like... look, I think... Rose, get them up, can we?
Let's have a look at them.
Yeah, Grover and Chapman will play on each other. I think that's the likelihood there. At centre back, centre forward. Silvani... That's not Silvani.
Is that a young Silvani? I think it's a young 15-year-old Silvani.
That's little Robinson, I think.
No, it's not. That's Silvani. Mooney, let's move on.
Are you sure?
Here we go.
Broughton and Johnson played on him last time, so I think he'll come out of the midfield pickers. There's Robinson again. And who's the other guy? And Varco, he'll have to play on one of those speedy little forwards. Podsiadly back, which is a great matchup with McFarlane. He's been in outstanding form, McFarlane. And here's Cheech and Chong. Cheech being Stokesy, and Roger Hayden will pick him up.
Podsiadly, back into the side, boys. Couple of weeks off. You expecting him to perform? He's been under some pressure away from Skilled Stadium.
Yeah, look, I think he'll perform. It'll depend on the ball use. It'll depend on the entries that they get in there. If they get it in there enough, he's going to be a handful for the opposition, no question.
He'll kick 5 or 6, don't worry, on the end of that.
Yeah, I think he'll be good.
Just on the Cats, where are they at right now in terms of finals this year, comparisons to last year? Have they just been edged out ever so slightly, or do you think the fact they lost last week will clearly enthuse them to want to do better this week?
They'll be enthused. There's no question they'll be better this week than they were last week, and the opposition won't be quite as sharp, I wouldn't think, but where they are in comparison to last year, I would think just a little bit behind where they were right now. I mean, they didn't lose a final last year. They lost one already this year.
And it's self-explanatory, isn't it?
Brian,
Yeah, I would think
by
so.
the one that they should. I know St Kilda lost in the grand final that maybe they could have won, but I haven't seen a Geelong coach or players react like they did on Friday night. They'll be back in this at 100 mile an hour.
Managed to get the Scarlo Crichton photos up. Let's have a look, see what you were looking at there. Big
It
Scarlo.
looks like Big Brother taking a little brother to the under-12s.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, Scarlo, he does look
very young photos
Jesse
we've got at
Crichton.
Fremantle Dockers.
Well, yeah, I reckon they can update
Boys, who are we going for in this game? Geelong and the Fremantle Dockers. Friday night, it's an elimination final. I know it's called a semi, but it is an elimination.
It's an elimination. Look, they're as good as they've been, Fremantle. I wouldn't think they could beat Geelong at the MCG on a Friday night.
I don't want to be my negative self, but I just hope they don't embarrass themselves.
Deja vu for Blake, though. We haven't spoken much about him being omitted. The speed of Fremantle may be a concern there, reason why he's not getting a game. The fact that Stuart Mackey is out of the side, Brian, makes me sort of lean towards
Andrew
Geelong.
Mackey,
Andrew Mackey, of course.
Yes.